Don't think Brexit's gone away, because it hasn't. Last week, an intense round of negotiations, all taking place by video conferencing, and Monsieur Barnier, who has insisted from the very start of this, going all the way back to 2016, he's always insisted there should be no cherry picking. He said it all the way through those years of negotiation. He's still saying it now, and we do appear to be, given we've got this really important date at the end of this month, whereby if we want to extend the transition period, we have to give notice. So we're entering a very crucial, very important few weeks on this, and it looks like we're in a bit of stalemate. But of course, all of this is happening somewhat below the radar at the moment, because it's not being talked about that much. It should be. Let's go to Brussels and speak to James Crisp, the Brussels correspondent for the Daily Telegraph. James, good evening. Thank you for coming back on the show. Is Monsieur Barnier taking a tough line, or is he beginning to rather lose his rag with us this time?
Oh, I don't know, Nigel. I don't know if he's losing his rag. I just think that the fact we're having this cherry-picking conversation again just shows. But really, I mean, this time round, I don't think it's entirely justified. I mean, the British negotiating team, it's true that on some of the things they've been asking for, it goes further than what's normal in an EU trade deal. But frankly, you know, they wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't ask for a little bit extra. I mean, you have to ask for a little bit more. You know this. In all
things in life, James. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I mean, how can the EU honestly... I don't think there's anyone in Brussels who honestly believes that they'll get away with getting the status quo on fishing. But they asked for it because it's a negotiating position, and you somehow try and get to some kind of middle ground. So I think, look, cherry-picking, that accusation was fair in the past, but it's less so now. The fact that he's wheeled it back out again for another round, I don't know. Does it mean that they've run out of ideas, or more likely they saw how it worked last time round, so why not bring out the old playbook again?
Now, as the 30th of June approaches, and if we don't find, very strong agreement with giving us 6 months to sort of fine-tune the detail, the talk will be that Boris is preparing to leave the EU with no deal, and there'll be massive pressure on him not to do so and to extend. I mean, if we run up to this deadline of June the 30th and nothing is agreed, and if we don't apply for an extension, what does that then mean for the next 6 months?
Well, I think what will happen, and I think both sides think this will happen, we're not going to have a walking away and preparing for no deal situation. I mean, that's been sort of a threat which has been made by British sources as we come closer and closer to July. That isn't going to happen. There are going to be more negotiating rounds. I mean, what's interesting is that Barnier has tried to put a bit more pressure back on Britain. He's saying, well, I know you guys all think that the deadline is the end of the year. It isn't. It's October. We need to have the deal sorted out by October so that the European Parliament, place has time to ratify it. And again, that does sound very similar to what we used to hear about the withdrawal agreement.
The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and all that kind. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is that both sides. I've spoken to people on both sides, and they have both said, look, we want to have more intensive talks in July. Now, where there's a bit of difference is that the EU side is saying, intensive talks July, and then September, October, we can, hammer it and get over the line and find the compromises on these big areas of fishing, future role of ECJ, the level playing field. But the British sources are saying, no, it's got to be in July. We have to get this sorted out in July. And that's an interesting, difference of approach, actually, because, it does sort of make you wonder if actually the British are more worried about the end-of-year deadline than they've been letting on, or that they like to make it look like in public.
James, we're going to talk to you again, because this is not going to end quickly, I can just tell. Thank you very much indeed for that. So, deadlock sides on these Brexit talks. We'll see where it goes. Nigel, I don't have much confidence in the MPs on the daily briefings. They're not sure what they're saying. There are more ums and ahs than I can take. Yeah, I think that's probably true, actually. Peter says, I've never listened to these government briefings. I don't think people are particularly taking any notice of it, not from what I can see anyway. No, look, I think that's absolutely right. People aren't. A couple of callers, though, tonight we've had, are listening to what's being said and are taking this very seriously indeed. Heather is calling.